With play resuming tomorrow and still on the All-Star break, here's a few prospects I look to watch and possibly stash during the break here. The first prospect, Max Meyer of the Miami Marlins. So Max Meyer, been talking about him over the last few weeks here as a prospect coming up. But obviously the Marlins, they waited to July 21st or later to call him up to get an extra year of eligibility on Meyer's contract through arbitration. So Meyer, we saw him early in the season, and he pitched well in the couple starts we saw him this season is Meyer. But right now, it looks like he's going to come up next week finally as that July 21st deadline passed for the contract. And on the season, 17 innings, 2-0 record, 14 Ks at 2.12 ERA, 0.82 whip, and 2 quality starts. So right now, Meyer in AAA for this Miami Marlin team. He's available in 73% of fantasy leagues. And this Marlin team all season long have been running players out there who really haven't been guys that could get the job done, and unknown players as well who aren't even highly touted prospects in their system, or guys pretty much off the scrap heap they've been getting starting pitching performances from. So this season for Meyer in AAA, 1-3 record, 4.45 ERA, 14 games started, 54 and 2/3, a 1.45 whip and 62 strikeouts. So his whip's a little bit high. Is Max Meyer. Opponent's batting average is pretty decent in the minor leagues at 264, but I think he just thought he was going to be in the major leagues a majority of the season, even though there were going to be times where they're going to watch his innings. But now with the second half approaching, this small team, you would think they want to see some of the younger guys the second half of the season to see what they got going into next year. So right now, well, he's out there in a bunch of fantasy leagues at 73%, and most likely coming up any week now is Meyer, the number 81 prospect and number 3 in the Marlins system. He's definitely someone to watch and possibly stash this week. Next prospects, Division De Los Santos of the Arizona Diamondbacks. So De Los Santos, not a really highly touted prospect, off his first and third base in fantasy baseball. And right now he's tearing it up in the minor leagues for this Diamondback team. He was formerly in the Cleveland Guardian organization, but now with this Arizona Diamondback team, and we know this Diamondback team, they were on the brink of getting into one of those wild card spots. Only a game and a half out now as play resumes in the second half coming up. So on the season for De Los Santos, tearing it up in AAA, 27 home runs, 82 RBIs already, stolen base, 58 runs scored, 331 batting average, and a 380 on base. I don't know what this team's waiting for. Is this Arizona Diamondback team? He's available in 92% of fantasy leagues. Not a top 100 prospect in Major League Baseball. And yes, he is the 14th number prospect in this Arizona Diamondback system. But right now, they definitely could use another bat, in my opinion, in that lineup. And if you could plug him in that 7th or 8th spot here at De Los Santos, I think he can help this Arizona Diamondback team. Like I said, their team is pretty much in the same spot they were last year, before they went on a wild run to make the World Series and fall short to the Texas Rangers. And like I said, De Los Santos, he's done it all in the minor leagues. Last season, 20 homers, 61 RBIs, a 254 average, 297. And this year, he's taken it to another level at 27 and 82 this year in only 82 games with 331 average and a 380 on base. So right now, he's tearing it up in the minor leagues. Here's De Los Santos. Like I said, they could use another bat. Is this Arizona Diamondback team? And they got a good farm system, no doubt about it, with other players like a Jordan Lawler, even though he's been banged up most of the season. Drew Jones, obviously. Andrew Jones, his son they drafted a couple years ago. He's a few seasons away, or maybe next year. So right now, De Los Santos, well, he's playing good baseball down there, and one of the best hitters in the minor leagues this season. He's definitely someone that should be up sooner than later. Available 92% of fantasy leagues. Next prospect's River Ryan of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Available right now 95% of fantasy leagues. Supposedly he's going to be up next week is River Ryan. And I mentioned him last week as well. And this Dodger rotation, they were all banged up. Bobby Miller sent down to AAA. Tyler Glasnow on the injury list. Dustin May in his rehab assignments, he had setbacks. He's back on the injury list, and we most likely won't see him again. And this rotation is just decimated. Yamamoto as well moved from the 15 to the 60-day injury list. So this season, River Ryan, I know it's a small sample size, 24 and a third, 0-0 record, 2.22 ERA, 8 games started, 32 strikeouts though, 1.03 whip. So River Ryan, like I said, his innings are definitely low down there in the minor leagues for this Los Angeles Dodger team, and hopefully he comes up to the majors next week or the week after, whenever he's coming up, to be part of this rotation, and I could stretch him out because he's got good stuff. This Dodger team desperately, like I just mentioned, with all the injuries and guys sent down to the minor leagues, need help in the starting rotation. Even though I know the trade deadline's in 12 days, they're most likely going to go out there and make a deal as a Dodger team. And they got a good farm system as well to go out there and make a big deal. The Tigers, Tyreek Skubal, all the rumors they're interested in. But right now, I think River Ryan's going to come up. And even if he does get traded, we could see him land in someone else's rotation. Because Ryan, he's already 25 years old. And it's a time for him to come up since he's pitching well in the minor leagues this season. Even though it's a small sample size, even last year, I thought he was all right with a 3.80 ERA, 104 and a third. So right now, he got off with injury and a slow start and limiting the innings a little bit. But Ryan should be up sooner than later. And right now, he's available 95% of fantasy leagues. Next prospect, Zebby Matthews of the Minnesota Twins. I spoke about Matthews a few weeks ago, where he was in Double-A at the time for Minnesota, but right now he's in Triple-A, and we'll see if Matthews could get up to the big league club. Pretty much David Festa is the only guy I would think he would have to jump who's next in line, and we saw Festa in the major leagues. It wasn't great this season in the few outings he had, so Matthews, he's not a top 100 prospect as well. Number 19, in fact, here for this Minnesota Twin team, 99% available. So on the season in Double-A, 5-1 record before he's got called up now, 1.85 ERA, 13 games started, 78 innings, 91 Ks, and an 0.76 whip. So he's got pinpoint accuracy. That whip under a 1 is a great number, obviously, here for Zebby Matthews, no doubt about it. And this Minnesota Twin team, like I said, an injury to Chris Paddock once again, or whoever in that rotation, or just someone, if they struggle and get bumped out of the rotation. Matthews and David Festa, most likely the two pitchers that are next in line. Like I said, I know Matthews, he hasn't pitched, obviously, in AAA yet, but he just got called up over there. And he's a towering pitcher, 6'5", 225, so I think he could be up in a couple weeks. Like I said, if something happens in the rotation, a struggle or an injury, because we saw it a few weeks ago where Festa was called up, but he just couldn't get the job done. So maybe Matthews is next in line to get a spot in the rotation. This Minnesota Twin team, already 24 years old. I think Matthews, he could be on the fast track to being in the major leagues, and definitely a prospect to watch this week. Fifth and final prospect I look to watch and possibly edge Chase McDermott of the Baltimore Orioles. So Chase McDermott, the number 7 prospect in the system for this Baltimore Oriole team, not in the top 100. He's available 99% of fantasy leagues, and he's ready, I think, to come up in the major leagues. A lot of experience under his belt with 62 games started in the minor leagues in his career. So Cade Pavic, he was the first prospect up in this rotation. He couldn't get the job done. He was batting practice for the most part, and they're hurting in this rotation for sure. Is this Baltimore Oriole team where they've dealt with a lot of injuries all season long. So right now, their rotation obviously led by Corbin Burns, Cole Irvin in that rotation as well, Suarez, Dean Kremer, and Pavic was in there as the 6th man. So right now we'll see if they go to a 6-man rotation or stick with the 5. But Dermott on the season, 3-5 record, 3.70 ERA, 18 games started, 90 innings, 1.40 whip, 128 strikeouts. So big time strikeout guy McDermott's been this season in the minor leagues, 128 Ks in 90 innings. And even last season we saw it as well, 152 Ks in 119 innings. And even going back in 2022, 160 Ks in 103 2/3. So he's got big strikeout stuff. A righty that throws hard. And like I said, I think this Baltimore Oriole team, if they can't get a start at the deadline, obviously they're one of the best teams in the American League. Chase McDermott definitely could be up for this team. And a lot of injuries they've dealt with all season long. Kyle Bradish, he's out for the season. John Means, he came back from Tommy John, and he's on the shelf once again, out for the season as well. So right now, McDermott might be the next man in line since Cade Pavic came up and he couldn't do much for this Oriole team. So that's a few prospects I look to watch and possibly stash during this All-Star break as play resumes tomorrow.